Hello everybody, welcome to my terraining tutorial. Basically we are going to go over 3 basic steps to terraining. That is like basic shapes, the going into like depth and details and stuff. Then we're gonna finish up with like the start and the end points of stuff. Alright, so let's go further into like to the first one. So for like basic shapes, for like when you're doing like terrain, like what I mean like by terrain, you're doing like cliffs and stuff. Because like usually like flat terrain is not usually that hard to do, but like if you want to kind of like nail the like cliffs and stuff, this is probably like the best thing. So usually you can go like something straight like, although that's going to be like a little bit more basic like, where there's not really going to be much detail that you can add onto it, and there's not really going to be like anything of unique interest to it. Now for like the slope thing, so like now for like orange, that's for like when you're making like a slope that will go up and like end at the top. Like you're just kind of thinking of like you're kind of like building up like where you're just gonna view it from like right here. That's basically what orange is going to be, where you're viewing it from that area, where this is just going to be like part of the inside of it. While for like blue, you're going to be viewing it from this area, where it's going to be overhanging from you. Yeah, so what I'm going to just build like a small example of this. I'm not going to go in too much detail. Because like when you go into like details, that's like the next step. You don't actually need to put a lot of effort into it, because like when you're building stuff, like simplicity can always just be better. I mean, I'm not gonna do like gradients this episode, but like when you work out the gradients to it, it can actually look a lot better while maintaining like a basic thing. See, like this kind of looks like if this was like a cliff, like going up, you would understand that like it's supposed to represent a cliff, but like it's not really looking like a cliff. Of course, you can always just shake things up by like misaligning a few blocks and stuff. But this is really just about basic shapes and stuff. I mean, I don't really need to go in detail about that one, because it's just going to be a wall. Of course, you can always see the thing here where it's like overbearing on you. Now for like now let's kind of move on to like that's like kind of like the easy part. The detail and depth is kind of like a thing on its own. So when you're building like for a straight line, for like a depth kind of thing, you kind of want to go for like a C. I mean, depending on what angle you're viewing it from, you're gonna like build a C. I mean, I can I'll show like an example of this, like with a ball. So if I were to have like a 2 here, I can have like that right there. I mean, it's really just I mean, I didn't really mean to make it this big, but like this is really just an example. I'm just rapidly placing blocks here. I mean, kind of like something like that, where you can kind of see where it starts and ends at the same position, but there's a little depth to it. In this situation, it kind of looks like nice for a wall. Of course, when it would look a lot nicer when you add like the endpoints and the start to it. But like for basic stuff, this is like what you kind of want to do. You can add like details to it, like some slabs, maybe like a slab here, slab there, and you can kind of see like that taking form. Because now it kind of looks like a more natural like thing. Of course it kind of does look unnatural because like it doesn't have a build up to it, or it doesn't lead somewhere. Now for like something like this is like kind of like the more complicated part of it, because you kind of want to like build something like because when you're building like a cliff or something, you kind of want like when you're doing it from this angle where it's going up, you're gonna want to kind of see how the end point go around there. This is so when you like the purple, this is like usually the cliff, and that's what you try and aim for. So when you start like a 2 base, now usually I do like 2 bases when I'm designing stuff. So when I can add like the last part of it, so I can build up to something. Then I just kind of follow along. I mean, I always just do like a trace line out of it. I mean, it doesn't really need to look like symmetrical because it is cliffs. They are cliffs. Right. They don't need to look identical to something. I mean, like having it like something like that. Maybe bringing it down like that. Where something like this would kind of allude to like something. Of course, this works both ways. I mean, I wouldn't say it works both ways, but it can in some situations. I mean, there's like you can kind of see like how the depth is working for you. But when you look at like this, you can kind of see it. Of course, you're adding details to it, so like adding like some stone here, and maybe slap on some slabs. You know, kind of like kind of add like boulders to it. See, like you kind of see like how the. I mean, I kind of carried away with the boulder thing, so like bringing it down by like at least one. Oh. Kind of see how that kind of builds up to something. And maybe you can now always just remove a fruit view box on the bottom. Because like, it's basically about the core concept of how things work. Because like, having an ideal shape can work for you, but putting it in practice, it's not going to work out for a nice build, because like if you fall to the shape perfectly, it's going to all look similar. Then it's going to look weird. Of course, like something like this would work, where you're kind of alluding up to something. Of course, the base kind of doesn't really do much, but like that is kind of something that you want to work on. Now I am gonna build another example for the other way around, because like that is kind of what what you want to focus on, because it doesn't feel the same thing as this one, because you actually how you build the cliffs is kind of different for like endpoints and start points, because like you can always start with something. I mean, like, start points are probably pretty much the most similar, but like they kind of switch up for like when you do like the two sides of cliffs, because you kind of want to have like an example on how you want something to be done. Of course, I'm speaking nonsense right there, but I am trying to get my words out. Alright, there's like the cliffs. Now you can kind of see like the core difference, where there's like, rather than there being ending in one block, it's gonna end in like something like 3. This is for something, this is for like an endpoint, because like, you know, I'm just gonna get into it when I get there. So like you add all your details to it. Maybe you kind of switch things up. Add a slab there. Oh, what's no? Add a slab there. Kind of taking shape. Then you kind of put your cups. Now I'm kind of making it look like it's building up to something bigger. What from going like smaller, maybe like a big rock formation, some sort, to like a. I mean, I don't think you guys need help with building rocks, because building rocks is like simple. You just slap some cobblestone together, maybe make a big looking boulder. But like kind of like something like that. That's gonna be like your ideal cliff. That's like for body. Now in this scenario, I actually added some details to the bottom of it. Probably not the wisest idea, because it can actually, it might confuse you a little. But like, just ignore that part. Yeah, pretty much, it's a nice looking cliff, but like, you use like the formula of that, and like the core basic of that, now for like a basic cliff. Right. Now for the last part, the endpoints. Endpoints are, oh wait, did I just say endpoints? Oh my god. Oh, I called them buildups. Oh, yeah. I called them buildups for a specific reason, where they actually build up to something, and like the endpoints is where they end at something. Not really good at naming things, but like I'm just gonna build like a. I'm gonna build like a 5 block wall, maybe. I think it is 5 blocks. Yeah, it looks to be about 5 blocks. Alright, so there's kind of a golden rule to this, is like you kind of work with like 2 blocks, and then you kind of, that's like your entire build-up thing. And then you kind of like transition from the, like this, to the build-up. So when you're building up, you kind of want to work with the terrain at the floor. Of course, this is a flat world. So got my moss block right here. It's easier to tell. So let's say I have like a yard here. And now I'm kind of want to build up. Actually, So you count. No, I did a 2 block 2 range. That doesn't really matter. I just didn't want to just kind of explode into like a 30 block wide thing. Of course, it's not going to be like 30 blocks wide thing. I mean, it really depends on how you build the mountain. But like 2 or 3 blocks is usually fine, because usually you're going to go lower into it. But now how you want to do things is like maybe add like some moss there, and if you kind of want to spice things up, you can add like a couple stones here, kind of insinuating that it's kind of rocky. Now, like at this point, it's not probably the best looking thing, but like, or like something like this, it's pretty simple. Now, for like endpoints, or whatever you like to call them, I'm gonna just build onto the same model. It's gonna follow the same formula as this type of thing. So basically, you're gonna want to build like, I mean, I think the golden rule for this one is just do a 2 block thing. Because like 2 blocks is like, it's not overbearing. And then you can actually add like some details to it. Like that. Maybe like something like that. And then maybe I'll add like some moss on top. Of course, this is just contrast and stuff, so I'm not actually trying to make it look good. But like, if you wanted like moss to overbear and stuff, that's how we would make it look like. I mean, I can kind of show you guys like an example of this. So kind of like that, where you're just gonna do that. Alright, we're kind of, I mean, you know, I'm just gonna, I always have a thing for overdoing it. But like, something like that would probably be like a thing. Where you kind of got a nice cliff, some rocks, and kind of maintain a straight wall policy. Where you added like an endpoint and a build up to it. Now for like, well, as basic walls go, this is pretty nice. Now for like the more kind of difficult stuff, the slopes. Now slopes are kind of interesting as they have like, they kind of follow the 2 properties of that thing, and then like the straight line, and just do like the 1 point separately. Very different. I mean, I'll show you what like for a build up. I'll do the 2 here. I'm not gonna add any details to it, because that's gonna be like even more confusing. I'm just gonna add like as a matter of fact, making this a little smaller would probably be best. Makes my work a little easier. Alright, now here's the build up. Now, for build up, like the beginning part is gonna be basically there. So maybe you kind of want to like add like a few rocks at the bottom. I'm a rock guy. That was kind of unnecessary of me to say, but kind of like that, where you could probably just maybe you could get away with like adding like. I did not mean to get rid of all of that. Where you can kind of get away with something like that. Where you're kind of leading up to something. Of course, this is going to be a steeper slope, so the grass is probably not going to be growing on this. If it was, it's probably going to be like a very small patch. Now for the top part. Now for top parts, you're kind of leading into a rocky area, because like in certain situations you're kind of not really seeing any, like maybe like because like grass is not going to be forming like right at the base of a rock going over there. When you kind of really think about it, there is going to be like small amounts of grass, so maybe like adding like that. But like rocks are going to be like common when a slope up happens. Now I'm adding like unnecessary details, but like you can kind of see where it is kind of heading, where you kind of got a cliff building up for something. Now if I add like a little bit more details, kind of like that. Now I can't really add detail to moss, but could always just build up some moss, insinuating that there's actually some grass there. And you kind of got like a cliff, where you can kind of see like there's some grass growing, but there's not really grass grown by the rocky area. Now it's a pretty nice looking thing. Now this is kind of like basic, so you're not really following that. Now for the other way around. Alright, so now we got build our base right here. And you're gonna see why I did a 3 there. I mean, I kind of implied at it. But like building a 3 is gonna be like your way of building like a better like. Oh, maybe I shouldn't get too hasty with this, but now you kind of want to build like. I'm gonna draw like a magenta line, like something that's gonna build up to here for like a start point. Because when you kind of have something like that, it's not going to really work out. So maybe adding that extra block wasn't necessary, so building something like that. Of course, you start out with moss. Now we're in this scenario, it's going to be a little bit more stony. So maybe you can add like a few stones there. Some moss. And maybe like add a little bit more moss up there. And you kind of got like the base layer. That's how much you can really do for a base of it. Now in this scenario, I made that a little too small. So I'm actually just gonna make that a little bigger so it looks a little nicer. Because I actually kind of care about my builds. Now for the top thing. The easiest part of it. You just do the same thing as you did for the straight line. And you just kind of add some details to it. Now, that, and now you just have the top. a grass top. Of course, that's looking a little dull, so we're gonna have to add some grass. And kind of look like that, where you can kind of see the slope, working it out. Where there's not, well, there isn't very details to it. I can probably break that thingy. You can kind of see where the thing is, and where I added some extra details to it. Now, how you want to work that thing out is, I don't really care how you do things, but that's like basically core basic of how you do things. Of course, for like every single, for like a longer thing, you're probably not going to have like boulders and stuff sticking out. This is just kind of like core basic stuff, where in theory you should probably be like having like some rocks, some grass sticking around, but like not almost constantly. Now, like when you kind of work through this, like the rest of it is kind of easy. You just build a flat plane, add like a few hills. Mountains are not really my expertise, and they actually take a while to build. This is for like something short, so maybe you want like spend like, let's say you're building on like a mountain and you kind of want to expand onto it. Using like certain blocks, you can actually just do that. Now for like curve stuff, you can kind of follow a similar policy. Although probably fine tuning stuff out is probably the best thing, because like it's not gonna, because this is like all cubes, it's not gonna work perfectly as a circle, so you're probably gonna want to use like a circle design. But like kind of integrating, like this is basically what you want to achieve. Now exit next episode when I'm gonna actually dive into like gradients and stuff, because like when it actually comes to building, gradients actually make like the heavy lifting of like the coloring of stuff. Like some areas are supposed to appear darker than others, kind of like how you can see this cliff. Of course, in this small example, this would be a little bit more overhanging, and there would be like darker areas in the middle. So, yeah, I think I covered every single thing the three basic things of building. I mean, you should be able to build a basic mounting out of this. The one advice that I could probably give you is do not get carried away in adding details to it. Simplicity is perfect. I mean, kind of look at this. I think I added too much to it, so it's kind of losing much of it, because it kind of lost most of the stuff to it because I added too much detail to it. Whereas this thing looks perfectly fine because I didn't add too much detail to it, but just certainly enough. Along with this, this is perfectly normal looking, enough details. Just when you're adding details to it, just don't stray too far away from like your core design. That being slopes and stuff. Now I hope you guys find this helpful, because like I'm certainly not the best builder there is. I'm certain that there's better people who can teach you better things. But this is how I'm gonna learn how to build, and this is how I'm gonna follow building. So anyways, I hope you guys find the 3 basics useful. Anyways, see yous.